What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Fantasy Flex podcast from the Action Network and Fantasy Labs. I'm your host, Chris Raybon. NFL Week 5 is here. We got waivers for you, as always. I'm joined by one of the most accurate rankers in the game, the odds maker, Sean Koerner. Sean, busy Week 4. How you going? How's it going for you?
Pretty good. Just pure carnage in the NFL. So many massive injuries, just brutal. And I think I got beat by the hook. I'm not shitting you 5 times this weekend. I had 20 plays, but still it seemed like I got hooked so much. I had A.D. Mitchell from our touchdown show. He had to drop the ball at the goal line. Just pure comedy this week. But the process is still sound and definitely ready for Week 5. How about you?
Yeah. There's a lot. Wish Matthew Golden came down one of those touchdowns, but overall, it was a weird week. I'm glad I woke up on time to kind of raise Kenneth Gainwell's ranking because that was I don't know if I really, usually when you get a guy like Jaylen Warren, you think he's gonna play. So the fact that he kind of sat out last minute was a little bit odd, and lots of injuries. So we'll kind of get to that in the waiver. Targets, quick reminder, all of our fantasy football content is available right now over at fantasylabs.com. Fantasy Labs NFL includes in-season rankings, waiver, wire, tips, and more. We've also added a survivor pool tool to help you make informed picks. Survivor should be interesting this year. Make sure to use code FLEX20 for $20 off at fantasylabs.com/flex. All right, position by position, our waiver targets for week number 5. Sean, where are you going at quarterback?
Yeah, for quarterback, I got to go with Matthew Stafford here, available in 57% of leagues. He's a streamer option because he's going to be very matchup dependent, but right now he's playing so well. He's inside my top 10 to open the week. Those back concerns that we had heading into the season just haven't been there so far. Maybe they flare up at some point, but he's been looking really good, and Puka Nakua's off to what could be a historic season, and Stafford's the one throwing him the ball, so that's good. But also just having Devontae Adams there playing at a high level is huge, especially in the red zone. That's why I took Stafford's over 22.5 pass touchdowns, or 23.5, whatever it was, because I thought he would kind of unlock his pass touchdown upside. And sure enough, Devontae's had 3 straight games with a touchdown. Puka actually caught a touchdown last week, which is good to see. So Stafford has 8 touchdowns now through 4 games. And, they face the Niners at home this week on the short week, and they have the 3rd highest team total. So I like his chances of getting 2+ more touchdowns here. Whenever you can, have that kind of outlook for Stafford, he's going to project well. So, he opens up the week as my QB9.
Yeah, Stafford and the Rams playing real well. They should have had that game against Philly, man. I still cannot. That had to be my worst betting beat, I think, of all time. I would say, having Rams plus 3.5 and losing on supposed to be a losing field goal for them. But oh man, that was rough. So, I gotta go with my guy Jackson Dart here. He's still available in about 3/4 of leagues. I know he's popped up on the injury report. I think he should be good to go, but going to New Orleans, this is the game that you and I talked about would probably have been the best starting point for him. But of course, he comes in and beats the Chargers, the undefeated Chargers, in his first start. Does lose Malik Neighbors, so that sucks. But as you kind of pointed out, he has that rushing upside. I think it was 10 carries, 54 yards, got in the end zone. So good call there. Jackson Dart at the Saints. The Saints are giving up the 5th most points per game to opposing quarterbacks this year. They've been easy to throw on. They've given up a touchdown on the ground as well.
Yeah, I thought the rushing upside was there, and Dable kind of let him have that Ole Miss gimmicky offense. I thought that was very great. Dable kind of building around Dart instead of having him, try to adapt to the NFL. So that was good to see. It does suck that Neighbors is out. Hopefully they kind of trade or bring somebody in to replace him, long term. But either way, that rushing upside is real.
Yeah, I wonder who do you think is it going to be short term? You think it's going to be Hyatt or I like Collins, but I feel like Collins and Slayton kind of overlap a little bit.
Yeah, I think it'll be Wandale might catch 10 passes a game now. But, we'll get to him in a second. But, yeah, maybe we'll just talk about those guys at the wide receiver. Okay. But I like Slayton to kind of step up. But, yeah, Hyatt just might be the new cardio king type, or Theo Johnson.
The old cardio king too. He was the old cardio king.
Exactly.
Like on the season, he would just have
right. No kidding.
No catches. All right. We'll talk about that a little more when we get to receiver. Let's go to running back. Who do you like for week number 5, Sean Koerner?
Yeah, so Woody Marks should have already been scooped up in most leagues, but I think he's still available in 65%, 68% of leagues. So you're probably going to have to bid a lot to get him now. After real breakout game, he had 100 plus total yards, 2 touchdowns. That's with Nick Chubb being healthy. And I kind of thought that could happen here against the Titans. I think he did end up leading the game in rushing, but we don't know that this could be kind of a hot hand situation. So, at worst, Marks is probably going to be in a near even timeshare with Chubb. But he has a chance to become the lead back and be an RB2, even if Chubb is healthy. So, just given that upside, I think he's a must add. Although he's probably going to be a little bit expensive now after the big game. But yeah, he opens up the week as my RB26. And this is a game at Baltimore. It should be a closer game script with Lamar Jackson out. They're going to have Cooper Kupp under center. So I think the Texans can have
Cooper Rush.
Oh, Cooper Rush. Yeah.
I was like, wait, Cooper Kupp was that bad at receiver that they just moved?
Yeah, actually, that's a season-long bet. I might actually still win if he keeps this up.
Yeah.
But like me, just my brain is in a million places right now. But yeah, Cooper Rush under center this week for the Ravens. So I think, Houston can have a pretty balanced approach, which helps Woody Marks this week. And I just like him long term is why I would add him. And then Kendre Miller, I think, is a must add after, a really solid 11 carry, 65-yard, 1 touchdown game, even with Alvin Kamara. Being healthy, I think at some point, the Saints are going to start evaluating for 2026 and beyond. And, they drafted Kendre in the 3rd round a couple years ago, but he's been injured. So he hasn't really had a chance to really play much. But, my comp for him was Aaron Jones. I still think he's a really talented back. And we kind of saw that this week. I mean, he mixed in with Alvin Kamara and, looked great. So this week especially, he's in the RB3 flex discussion with, 4 teams on bye, and the Saints are playing the Giants. What are the Saints, like -2 point favorites here? So it's a game.
Oh, wait, stop it. What? Wait, what?
Aren't they?
I gotta go bet the Giants. Hold on.
Go look.
What the hell?
Yeah, no, actually,
is that going to get to 3?
They're -2.5 at DK right now. So, yeah, I don't think it'll get to 3. But the Saints are favored by a couple points this week. So, if there ever a time for them to be run heavy, it'd be this week against, the Giants' weak run defense. So, I think Kendre Miller could be a standalone play this week. And then long term, he has RB3 flex upside if they want to get him more involved. And if Kamara misses time, he has, low end RB2 upside. So Kendre Miller is a guy that is also on my radar this week.
Yeah, I think Woody Marks probably took that job, honestly. I mean, he out-snapped Chubb by about 10. He's been better in almost every facet. We heard whispers during the offseason about, Chubb didn't really impress in camp, which, again, usually that's like a red flag just because it's puff piece season. Usually you're hearing like, oh, yeah, he's a veteran. He looked like the old Nick Chubb on Cleveland. Like the fact that there were whispers that, he wasn't really up to snuff all the way back then. And now Marks just kind of seems to be getting more involved every week. It's not a good sign for Chubb, I would say.
Right.
The first guy I mentioned, this is going to be 2 sucky running backs, but they're getting work. And I think one of them is interesting. I'm curious to hear your thoughts because the Steelers are on bye. But I would add Kenneth Gainwell at this point because number one, I think you get a little bit of a discount. We don't know exactly, what the future holds for Warren. Like, that was kind of a weird late scratch. But at this point, I mean, Gainwell's playing so well that I don't think he's going anywhere in this rotation. And, even after they kind of said, Warren, he's our lead guy, Gainwell was still getting some goal line work. So any thoughts on him? Just because I don't, he had a really good game against Minnesota. I kind of don't see him going away. And now that there's like questions about Warren's health and kind of the way they're using Johnson, they don't really seem that interested in Johnson. Do you think Gainwell is kind of a guy who's going to just remain in that rotation for the rest of the year?
Yeah, absolutely. Just because he was so efficient in this game as well. I mean, Warren's been the lead back, but he hasn't been efficient on the ground, right? So there's definitely an opening for Gainwell there, and he had at least one goal line score. Were both of them at the goal line? So that's really good news because he hasn't really shown that in the past. But Warren's not really a goal line back, and I don't know if Tallman trusts Caleb Johnson really anywhere right now. So I think he only got carries just because Warren is out. But yeah, I think Gainwell, at least it's going to be a 50-50 committee when Warren comes back. And yeah, there's no guarantee, even though they have the bye week. There's no guarantee Warren's going to be healthy, and Gainwell already proved that if Warren misses time, he's going to be a high-end RB2 option. Those are the kind of backs we want to roster anyway.
Yeah. Things are getting really weird in that Pittsburgh running back rotation because it was coming into the year, it seemed like Warren was on thin ice, and then he gets the extension, and it's like, all right. And then Gainwell is like the lead back, but then they commit to Warren, and then he's hurt. So it's hard to know, but I think at this point we had Gainwell, and then another guy, Kareem Hunt, still available in about 60% of leagues, and he's still the guy that seems to get the more valuable work for Kansas City. I know Pacheco got a receiving touchdown, I believe it was. I mean, everybody did in that game against Baltimore, but Kareem Hunt was the closer on the ground. Kareem Hunt still the favorite for goal line work. And every week somehow, some way he seems to get more carries than Isaiah Pacheco, whether it's late game, early game, goal line, I think Pacheco, to me, he's a sell high now that he actually got in the end zone and has a decent fantasy box score to his name. Because it's just, and then we saw Brashard Smith start to mix in a little more too. So Pacheco's a sell, but I would still buy Hunt because I think he's just a good guy to have on your roster. Not really sexy, but most weeks he's gonna probably do something for you. So Kareem Hunt is another guy that I would add, but I think Gainwell. Gainwell's a priority for me because if you don't need a guy for this week, because I think going forward he might have some long term value. All right, wide receiver. We talked about the Giants, but I know there's somebody on the Packers. I think we probably talked about him last week too, but yeah. Romeo Doubs, right?
Yep, yeah, Romeo Doubs. So, he's on a bye this week. So maybe, he's not going to warrant too much of a, massive bid. But last week I said he could be discount Trey Tucker, who I felt we would probably overspend on. But they're both very volatile receivers. And sure enough, Trey Tucker had a dud, right? And Romeo Doubs, of course, scored 3 touchdowns. So the time to get Romeo Doubs is last week. I'm not saying bid aggressively on him because, Watson's going to be due back soon. Golden's going to, eventually break out. So Doubs is going to be just streaky week to week. And that's kind of the point I wanted to make on these wide receiver 40 to 50 type of guys we're adding. You don't want to overspend too much because they're going to be volatile. So I think the guy in that range for me this week would be Darius Slayton, who sort of fits that bill. He has rest of season, wide receiver 3 flex upside at times with Malik Neighbors now out. He got 3 catches for 44 yards last week. He's going to be out there pretty much every Jackson Dart drop back going forward. And, he's typically going to be the cardio king. But like we said, I think that role is going to go to Jalen Hyatt now. So, Slayton's my wide receiver 44 to open the week. I don't think he's going to require much of a bid to get him. And there's really 6 or 7 guys out there that are ranked inside my top 50 that, are widely available right now. So this is a decent week for wide receiver where, again, I wouldn't overbid on anybody. But the guy that you're going to mention, I would. If the guy that you're about to mention is available, you absolutely have to be aggressive with him.
Yeah, and that's Wandale, still available in just over half of leagues. Number one, at New Orleans, indoors, number one receiver, a guy that we saw can put up, he can go deep now. He can go underneath.
Yeah.
Wandale, going to be the number one receiver for the Giants. And the fact that it's Jackson Dart, I think long-term does give him a little bit of a boost. I know he had the big game with Wilson, but overall, I think, consistency-wise, it's a good move for him. And he's a guy that, he can move around. So I wouldn't be surprised if he actually starts playing more in like non 1-1 personnel group, because that's really kind of been his the only thing to cap his ceiling a little bit. He usually kind of like a Josh Downs only plays in the slot, but he could move outside, and we've seen that at times. And I think, and I do think it's interesting because I Bo Collins did get a lot of snaps too behind Neighbors last week, so I wouldn't be surprised if it's Collins over Hyatt, just based on what I saw in the preseason. Collins is just the far better receiver. It's just got to go back and watch the tape and see how much he can play like off the line. And same thing with Slayton, because I think one of them should be able to play the Z at least, and that would kind of free up some snaps. So yeah, I don't think Hyatt is the guy that I want anywhere. Just in case anyone was kind of thinking that, because I know he had draft capital a couple of years ago. But yeah, I would guess like Bo Collins might be a sneaky maybe a sneaky touchdown show bet.
DFS this week. Big GPP type guy. But where do you have Wandale opening the week? Because he's my wide receiver 23, and that still feels low.
I think he's my wide receiver 20. Yeah, he's gonna be like I don't really. He could like you said, he could catch 10 balls in this spot. So yeah, good spot for him. And I think Dobbs. I mean, the thing about Dobbs is, we keep thinking he's gonna go away. So I don't know if he even goes away when Watson comes back or Jaden Reed. Like this is how Devontae Adams' career kind of started too, where he was just kind of around and not really doing much, and then he kind of just stuck around, and then one day he was catching 3 touchdowns.
I think Devontae was maybe Dobbs more prominent than that, but Dobbs was supposed to be the heir apparent to Devontae. But that's what I was saying. Like with all this, volatility, he's the one constant in this wide receiver room. So yeah, even when Jaden Reed, Christian Watson are all back, like he's probably still going to be out there 70% of the time. And, Jordan Love knows where he is at all times with the Spaceballs helmet. So, I mean, Romeo Doubs, I don't know what it is against Cowboys. He just always has these massive games. But again, if you have him, you just have to know he's going to be streaky, similar to a Trey Tucker guy. So he's a high ceiling kind of guy. So you have to know the spots to use him, and you need to be hunting for a big score. But if you could deal with the floor games, like he's always an excellent upside wide receiver 4 type guy.
Yeah, I mean he was getting like Terrell Owens like late 90s, early 2000s targets, like just like the end zone slant, like those are targets most receivers in the league just don't even get. So that kind of raised my eyebrow a little bit with Dobbs. All right, tight end week number 5. Where are you looking?
I'm gonna go with Brenton Strange here. He opens the week as my tight end 11. Just another really solid 6-catch game for 45 yards, and the underlying usage backs it up with another 80% routes run rate. His second game with a 20% plus target rate, and another game where Hunter Long vultured him with a touchdown. I believe that's the second one this year. So not great, looking back, but those maybe will go Strange's way when things line up going forward. So still like his upside, especially with the Jaguars wide receiver room just being pretty inconsistent right now. And the Jaguars have trailed at a really low rate so far this year, so they've been able to be very run heavy. But this week, they're at Arrowhead, or they're facing the Chiefs, so they're 3.5-point dogs. Maybe they just play with the lead the entire game again this week, but this could end up being one of the more pass-heavy game scripts for them. So Strange is another good bet for 4+ catches. So if you're streaming tight end, could do a lot worse than that. So yeah, he opens up the week as my tight end 11.
Yeah, he's just been kind of sticking around. Like he hasn't really had a ceiling game or anything like that, but his underlying metrics have been pretty solid. I'm gonna go with fresh off the Monday night 2-tutty game. Darren Waller still available in 91% of leagues. Now, the underlying usage actually wasn't great for a guy who caught 2 touchdowns. I think he was out there. What about half the? Let's see.
35%, right?
Yeah. So it wasn't great, but we know 2 things about this Dolphin offense. Number one, we know that like for the last year and change, it's been all tight end and Achane. So I think Waller, that was his first game. I think the usage obviously goes up, and now you got no Tyreek Hill. And Tyreek Hill was a guy that it just screamed like do not draft from the beginning of the year. And we got we got a glimpse of good Tyreek Hill for like a game and a half, and now he's done. So that opens up just a huge target share. So the fact that Waller, was already catching touchdowns, which is something that he really didn't do much of throughout his career, I think that's a good sign because like Julian Hill, Tanner Koerner, like these guys are cardio kings, and I expect Waller to just kind of ease into that Jonnu Smith role eventually. They have to now. It's like not having Tyreek Hill is like what they had last year, except he was there. But yeah, I think Darren Waller, he's only going to get better. He graded very highly too at PFF too, so he played well when he was on the field. Only 16 snaps, 12 in the pass game, but that's if he doubles that, which I think he eventually will, he's gonna be a pretty valuable tight end. So Waller for me, still available in over 90%. Okay, defense, special teams. Where are you going?
I'm going to go with the Browns here. They open up the week as my 7th ranked defense. They're available in 90% of the leagues, which is crazy just given how elite this defense is in real life. And then now they face the Vikings, and likely Carson Wentz, who was just getting sacked and throwing picks last week. So I think this is a good spot for them to get, a few sacks. Got Myles Garrett running after him, maybe some turnovers. But I think the Browns, have decent upside for a streaming defense, and they open up as my 7th ranked defense. Although your defense is ranked much, much higher than them.
Yeah, the Browns are just available because they played the Lions last week. So the Browns are the better defense than the one I'm about to mention. But the matchup, which is a big part of these things, it comes into play here. That's why I'm going with the Cardinals. They're available in 80% of leagues. But they're up against the Titans, and the Titans scored how many points last week? Still waiting for them to score, I guess. So yeah, they've given up the 4th most points overall to defense, special teams, but they gave up a shutout, and those team totals can those are something that we can always kind of fall back on. Mm-hmm. They've been very sack prone as well. 17 sacks allowed, 2nd most in the league, right behind the Vikings at 18. So. The one thing we haven't seen too much of is interceptions out of Cam Ward, but regardless, this
those will come.
They need to at this point. They got to do something to get that offense going.
Yeah.
Like, trade an interception for a touchdown, Jesus. So yeah, it's not looking great for Tennessee. So they're going to be a target all year long, obviously. Yeah. So yeah, Cardinals for me. Let's close it out with kicker. Where are you going in week number 5?
I'm going to go with Joshua Carty here of the Rams. He opens up the week as my number 4 kicker. And again, part of that is due to the Rams just having a very high team total. They have the 3rd highest to open the week. And they're at home against the Niners. I'm not sure if there's any weather this week, but, it's an indoor game technically. And sometimes I like having, my kicker go Thursday Night Football. Just lets me know if I got a good game out of them or a bad game, and I got to be more aggressive or conservative with my lineup decisions later in the week. Just a subtle thing that I like to do sometimes. And sometimes Thursday night games can be sloppy. Maybe the Rams, they get across midfield, but then they, stall a little bit more. So I like his upside this week to get a couple field goals, maybe 2 or 3 extra points. So yeah, he's projecting highly in my new kicker model, so he's my kicker 4 to open the week.
Yeah, the Rams stalling in the red zone has been what the Rams have been doing for ever since the Super Bowl, I would say, when they won. That's just been an issue for them. They've been a little better this year, like you said, with Adams, but I'm going to go with Spencer Schrader, available in 58% of leagues. He's the highest scoring kicker this year on the year by over 10 points. So, he's the number one kicker on the year. 13 out of 14 field goals, 12 out of 12 extra points. Indoor home game against the Las Vegas Raiders. That should turn out well for the kickers. So, yeah, like Schrader, still available in 58%. All right, that is going to do it for our NFL Week 5 waivers episode. Be sure to subscribe to the Fantasy Flex podcast so you don't miss an episode all season long. Don't forget to check out the Fantasy Labs app for all of our projections and more. You can use code FLEX20 for $20 off an NFL sub. We'll be back with our player projections episode tomorrow, the DFS preview on Thursday, and over on the Action Network podcast, we'll have some of our favorite touchdown scorers for every single game, along with Jill Gallant on Friday. You can, on Thursday. You can find Sean on X at @the_oddsmaker. I'm at Chris Raybon. We're at those same handles at the free award-winning Action Network app. Until next time, let's get this money.